If you are a music producer and you're still struggling with finishing and releasing your music, I want to show you that it's possible to get out of this loop without getting stuck over and over again. Today's video is about my client Silvio. I want to show how we went him from less than 1k streams per song to more than 250k streams in 2025 and already 100k streams since the start of 2026. I want to show you 3 simple steps we implemented so he was able to finish and release more than 15 tracks last year. But before we go into it, let me show you where Silvio was before we started. Back in 2024, Silvio already released his music on Spotify. His ideas sounded solid and he also generated some streams. But no matter what he has tried with his songs, he always got stuck under 1k streams per every song he released. In our first conversation, he told me that he knew he has to get more out of his music and he really wants to see it grow in the future. But he also realized that he didn't know the steps which made songs sound more professional. So as you can see, it was never about plugins or synths. It was all about the belief that he misses knowledge how to finish his tracks. From my perspective, the core problem for Silvio was this. He had great ideas and a good understanding of what his music should sound like. But instead of following this vision with a clear direction why he produced his music, he always stepped back into the production and added more and more elements, which led him to overproduced tracks, no clear mixes, and no final vision for his music. And at the end, Silvio always had overproduced tracks. And no matter what he was doing after it, he wasn't able to finish the tracks consistently and make it release ready. And to get rid of this situation, we implemented 3 steps that helped him with decisions on his music, his production, and the release strategy that fits his needs and his time and budget. So let's dive into it. In step 1, we checked all of Silvio's demos and all his recent releases. We checked the arrangement, the production, and every part he gets stuck in while he produces his music. And after we had a clear idea why and where Silvio gets stuck in his production, we analyzed his whole workflow. And in the workflow, we checked for all the parts that weren't important to finish the tracks and just costs time. In his specific situation, the core problem with the workflow was that he always searched for new samples after the demo and the idea had a great foundation, that he constantly changed the vibe of his whole track after the first drop, and that he dragged his arrangement too wide so he wasn't able to keep the whole emotion and the energy throughout the whole track until the end. And after we understand why he gets stuck in his production, we got into step 2 and finally evolved his production. So in the second step, everything is about the workflow. And the workflow you can see here is basically the one I show to every of my clients. This workflow isn't a dogma, but it's the simplest and yet effective workflow you can use to exactly know what to do after every step. It provides you from getting stuck and hopping from demo to demo again and again. So how we implemented this exactly to Silvio. Silvio was already great at starting new ideas, like I mentioned in the first step. With his demo we already could hear the vision and the vibe he wanted to go with his full track. So for him, it was more about going into the production and the more technical stuff of his songs. And one of the lessons he has to understand was less is more. So since Silvio was in a position where he already put too much elements into his songs and led to overproduced tracks in the end, he recognized that he wasn't able to make everything sound right and everything clashed too much. After we separated the idea from the production phase, he was finally able to understand what is really important in his songs and what is needed to follow the vibe until the end of his production. So after he mastered the step of the production, we went into the arrangement. And with the arrangement, everything is about making the song streaming optimized. This means catching the listeners with a strong hook, keep the energy throughout the whole song, so every listener wants to listen to the song until the end, and have a certain emotion throughout the whole song, so listeners can recognize the song, wants to save and repeat it over and over again. After Silvio understood that he has great ideas, has to focus more on production and arrangement, he was finally able to finish his music consistently. And with this workflow, Silvio started immediately finishing up to 2 songs every month and releasing every 4 to 6 weeks. And that already brings us to our last step, the release strategy. Before we implemented his own release strategy, Silvio wasn't quite sure how and when to release his music. This led him to release someday on a Friday, sometimes on Wednesday, sometimes on Monday, and always to different times. So we implemented the core rules of releasing music on Spotify. And the core rules for releasing on Spotify are release always on Friday, release always at 12 p.m. and in between the releases you have to wait at least 14 days. And after this was clear, we implemented the strategy Silvio uses still today. Step 1 is always upload the song to Spotify at least 14 days before the release. Step 2, 10 days before the release, the song has to be pitched to Spotify's own playlist on Spotify for Artists. Step 3, At least 1 week before the release, the song has to be pitched to playlist creators on SubmitHub. And here it's important to look for creators which are fitting the genre and the vibe of his music. And step 4, once the song gets detected by creators, you have to find similar playlists and similar creators to pitch your music to. And in step 5, the playlist pitching has to be continued at least until 1 week after the release. The goal with pitching to playlist is in the beginning to build enough traffic and momentum that people come to your song, listen to your song, and you build streams in the beginning. This triggers the algorithm from Spotify and puts you on playlists like Discover Weekly, Radio, or Release Radar. And at the same time we are doing playlist pitching, we also implemented paid ads. And the goal with paid ads isn't to build a big amount of streams, it's about to build a long-lasting growth asset. Here it's about finding people on social media that like your music. They go to your Spotify profile, listen to at least one song, and if they like it, they will follow you, they will save your songs, and you generate your own little fan base. And in between playlist pitching and paid advertising, we also built his own playlist. And the goal with his own playlist is to have a growth asset he can manage all the time. This means he has to control where he puts the song, how long he puts the song on the playlist, and how much the playlist gets promoted to build him streams. So I know that this isn't the most complicated release strategy you can have, but in order to Silvio's time and budget, this was the one that fits him the most. And as you can see in the results, this strategy worked really great for him. So while talking about results, let me actually show you what Silvio got. So after implementing all the steps, Silvio was able to release more than 15 songs in 2025. And with the released songs of 2025, he made more than 250k streams. But with all the songs he has on Spotify, he made more than 300k streams in 2025. And also, Silvio has his own Spotify playlist with all of his songs. The first song he released in 2026 made nearly 20k streams within the first week. And while talking about 2026, in the first 8 weeks of this year, Silvio was able to get to 50k streams, and just in February he built 100k streams on all of his music. But the biggest change here aren't actually the streams. The biggest change is that Silvio built a clear and repeatable system to making music consistently. Before we worked together, finishing was always a question of motivation. Sometimes he had the energy to finish his track. Sometimes he got stuck with his ideas, and sometimes he just started new ideas over and over again. But once we implemented the full workflow, music production wasn't a struggle anymore, it became a habit. Today, he knew exactly what to do after the idea, how to go to full production, to a full arrangement, and how to actually put the song out and promote it in the right way. And this is honestly the biggest difference between producers who keep stuck and producers who grow. The ones who stuck rely on inspiration and motivation. And the ones who grow rely on a system that works every time. And this is actually the work I do with many producers. A lot of producers already have great ideas and strong demos, but they keep stuck between demo and finished release. And I help music producers to build these demos into finished and release ready tracks, to build a system that works every time, and to build a release strategy to promote your song the right way, and finally seeing some results from putting in all the work and time in your music. And if you are a music producer and you always keep stuck with your music, there's a link down below where you can book a 1-hour call with me and let us talk about why you get stuck and what we can do to get you out of this situation.